Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Any Thoughts?
Today we're going to be talking about the live-action Ghost in the Shell movie from this year versus the first Ghost in the Shell movie, which was in 1995?
95.
Yep.
So, let's get started.
All right.
So, Ghost in the Shell, the major, if you will, this major, not this major. Remind myself to edit that in later. Started off as a manga in 1989, April actually, which is this month that we're in, and ran until November of 1990.
Okay.
So that's how it started off. And then from there, it just kind of went...
Okay, yeah. So the first thing that they ever did was a movie in 1995, which is where we're kind of going here with the 2017 version of the movie. The live-action one was based mostly on the 1995.
Mostly on that, yep.
Which is really cool because there's been that one, there's been other movies... And there's been, I think last year, they came out with the 3 movies of Ghost in the Shell Arise. And now they have the live-action movie that's out.
Right. So, yeah, they've had quite a few. So, first we're going to talk about the similarities between, like, the 2017 live-action and the 95 anime.
Okay.
So, the first thing that I wanted to discuss was the birth of the major. Which, so like, she's not really born per se because she's basically all
she's all robot,
not android. What do they call it in this?
Animatronic?
No, cybernetic. She's all. That's what they call it in the Ghost in the Shell world. So she's all cybernetic except for her brain, which is her ghost. And so this, the cybernetic part is her shell.
Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell. Right. So the way it starts off in the anime, it starts off with, like her shell being created basically and the brain being merged in and then, them like basically booting her up per se. And then, coating her with like, what looks like human skin.
Right.
All this stuff. And it's almost a scene-for-scene recreation of that sequence.
Yeah.
There's certain things that the anime does that it's kind of like, okay, how do we recreate that? Because, she's basically floating through the air and
They did do that part, though.
They did do that, except they had it where there was like
in a tank.
There was like a thing that was like going with her, so it was almost like the thing was making her float, which kind of made it make sense rather than her just floating randomly in the air. So anyways, what else you got?
So the next thing that they had a similarity with was the Invisibility Suit, which is in her original outfit. That's the white thing that she's wearing.
This thing here.
And it's basically what she really wears most of the film. And for those of you who have seen the 1995 version, it looks like she's naked. It's because she's got this suit on, and it makes her invisible.
Right.
And the only thing that I saw that was a little different was that, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the 1995 version, she had that suit, but she had a thing on her head with like a cloth hanging in front. I don't remember how exactly they did that in this one.
No, she had like goggles in the 95 one or something. Some sort of goggles that she wore that was like almost a full face shield or something. And that was, what made her face invisible, I guess. I don't really remember what they did in this one because I don't think they had that. It was just kind of like somehow
her face was invisible. I don't remember. So, but yeah, they did have like it looks like she's got layers of plastic on her, which is kind of interesting.
Going along with the invisibility suit was in the 95 anime, there's a scene where she's fighting.
She's chasing somebody.
Yeah, she's chasing somebody, but then there's like this flooded area of water, and she's fighting them while invisible. And that was almost to like the punches and kicks.
Yeah,
a
the
recreation.
Choreography was very, very similar.
It was pretty good. As far as like recreating that scene as well. So like basically the reason we're kind of recapping like these similarities and differences, sorry to kind of put this in the middle of this, but basically, you know, we're trying to show you guys like
it's not a bad movie.
Yeah, even though people said like, oh, it's not going to be the same or blah blah blah, there's a lot that's the same. So anyways, what else you got?
Now going on with water. If you guys remember from the 95 version, there is a scene where the Major goes underwater. And she floats back up to the surface, and Batou's on a boat there, and they have a scene on the boat. And that is like, her in the water was a little different, but I like what they did. Now, no spoilers here, but it was very, very similar. And so... them being on the boat with the sodas and everything, I think they did that in the 95 adaptation as well. But it was very, very similar to the point. So, what else?
Let's see. The music, they used a lot of the same music from the 95 one.
Especially the intro to it, where they're making her in the 95, that same music, they use that throughout.
Right. So that was pretty good. I think... Number one, it probably saved them some cost on trying to get people to make new music for the movie. Number two, it makes it relate back to that 95 movie, which is really what they were trying to do with this.
I actually had chill bumps whenever like they had that scene and they were actually had that music behind it. I was like, oh man, it's so real. The next thing we're going to talk about is Batou's eyes. The little bottle cap eyes that he's got. They were like spot on. I don't know how that guy saw to do like scenes. But yeah, it must have been very difficult for them to do that. And the cool thing that we actually didn't include is they actually do give you a background on his eyes. They actually give you an idea of what happened to him in the 2017 version. So that's really neat. Now, what else we got?
Sorry. So the city setting, that was pretty close to the same too, because what they did was in the 95, like everything's all futuristic. Was it flying? Did they have flying cars?
No, I don't think they did.
I don't think they have flying cars or anything, but
they had a lot of like.
Remember. But what they had a lot of. Oh yeah, they didn't have flying cars, but what they did have was everything was like holographs and stuff like that. So there weren't any like just flat billboards. Everything was like a what did I say, holograph?
Yeah, it's
a hologram. Everything was a hologram. So like all the advertisements were like just projected between all these buildings and stuff in the middle of the city, and like just massive buildings and stuff kind of everywhere. And I mean, they like recreated that almost exact. So it was pretty
did an
legit.
Amazing job. The last difference that we're going to talk, the similarity that we're going to talk about is the team. The team is mostly the same. They had one extra girl that wasn't in the original, but that's fine. I mean, they had the big characters, Batou, the Major, the Chief. Who else did they have?
Ishikawa. Saito. Tosaga. Oh wait, that is the Chief.
Yeah. Chief. But
anyway, like all the people that you expect to be there, were there. So that's good. So now we're going to talk about some of the differences.
Yep.
So one of the differences that I noticed, and it's hard to notice it unless you watch it like
very, very closely.
Very closely. But in the scene that they did a really good job recreating, there is one thing that is not the same, and it may have to do with the way the animators drew it, because they drew it like from their perspective. But in the anime, she goes with her left hand and as she's falling from a building and turning on her invisibility suit, she goes across with her left hand and becomes invisible. Well, in this, she goes across with her right hand because Scarlett Johansson is right-handed.
So the gun holster is also the same way.
Yeah. Or, well, actually, I guess she doesn't go this way. They go down. So she goes down versus down. So, like, the original was left-handed. The live action, right-handed. Yep. So that was kind of a subtle difference. But
I didn't catch it. I didn't even notice that. So that's something he noticed. Let's talk about, like we said, no spoilers. But we will say that the enemy that you know from the 1995 version is not the same enemy that they have in this one. It's kind of similar, but the, like, main bad guy is not the same main bad guy.
But it's a change for the good, in my opinion.
I think it helps the story make a little bit more sense.
It does indeed help the story make more sense. So, again, if you guys have not gone and seen this movie, you're missing out. Like, all, prejudice aside or whatever for, Scarlett Johansson, whatever you may think of her, or, if you were like, oh, they didn't cast an Asian person or whatever your thing that's keeping you from seeing it is, just, like, put that to the side.
And go see it.
And go see this, and you'll be like, that was a good movie.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the next thing is that Major Motoko, which is who it is, Motoko Kusanagi. So the Major is not actually known by that name in this movie when we meet her. So this is almost, it's almost like they made the 95 anime, but they set it just prior to, like, the 95 anime almost. So, like, there's certain things that take place that are almost like pre that anime. And really what they truly based this on was more of the manga and the anime. So there's a lot of things that happened in the manga that they didn't put in the anime, and then they put it in this movie instead. So it's kind of like all together, kind of. And there's still stuff that was in the anime that wasn't in this movie, and stuff that was in the manga that wasn't in this movie. But anyways, so the Major is not actually known by her name.
Okay.
And that makes it kind of make sense why she's not Asian. Hint, hint. So we have to learn her past and then kind of figure it out.
Yeah. So like we said, no spoilers, but that was kind of a hint to a spoiler. Yeah. The next is a glimpse, what we were just talking about, a glimpse into her past. And actually, like I said before, it's not just her past, it's Batou's past and
kind of everybody's past. You get a little bit of, like,
just a little bit of a glimpse of it.
Little snippets
and
that kind of explain stuff from the anime.
Yeah, and, like, you guys remember the enemy from the 1995 version, the android. The other android that was, like, switching bodies with people. If you remember that. Well, that enemy is kind of in this movie, but you also hear his backstory her backstory as well. So there you go with that.
So, again, what was mentioned earlier, one of the other differences that was kind of a big thing that wasn't in the anime is there's a whole scene where something happens, because I'm not trying to give anything away, but something happens and you find out why Batou has to get his special eyes that he gets that are like what are they, infrared, X-ray, and
I don't remember
something else.
But he does. You guys will notice that when they start out in this movie, he has, like, eyes like we do.
Yeah, he has regular eyes to start with. Now he has some cybernetic enhancements,
and I think it's in the brain.
Yeah, actually. But his eyes are not one of them until a certain thing happens, and then you find out why.
Yep.
So, and then one of the last differences is what, Becca?
The ending. The ending is very different, and that's also tying into... Sorry, I need to switch. You guys know we do this by script, to keep us on track. But the biggest surprise in this is learning more about the cast.
Yes.
And you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't they do the anime like this? It makes so much more sense. So there's a lot of fill in the blanks doing it this way that we didn't get. And if you're, like we said before, if you're complaining about her not being Asian, go see the movie.
And you'll understand why.
A hint. Big hint, guys.
So last we're going to talk about
the differences.
The making. No, we talked about the differences.
Okay, sorry.
Last we're going to talk about Becca's on the previous part of our script here. So the last thing we're going to talk about quickly is the making of the movie. So the way the rights were obtained. So in 1995, or actually, sorry, in 2005, I believe it was, they made Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence. Well, the American company that released that in America is actually owned by Steven Spielberg. Well, when Steven Spielberg said, yes, we'll produce that movie, he also obtained the rights to produce or to reproduce a live action version of Ghost in the Shell anime. So it started back in 2005. So by the time they wrote the script and everything, the script was done in 2014. And then by the time the movie was actually released, here we are, it was March 2017. So
second thing real quick is, what do you guys know what company that Ghost in the Shell was originally done by?
I do.
Okay. What is it?
Studio IG. Yep. And we actually met that guy.
And
like the CEO. He wasn't the director or anything of Ghost in the Shell.
But we met the CEO.
He was the CEO. He really...
He had a lot to do with that show, though.
Well, back then, Studio IG was like...
Because what is his name?
Foundation.
What is his name, and what do we find funny about that name?
Ishikawa is his name, and Ishikawa happens to be one of the characters
in Ghost in the Shell. Haha, I found a tie there. Very interesting.
So anyways, I kind of mentioned to you about the script.
Right.
The script is pretty much, it was written to be kind of a recreation, but they, changed a few things here and there. So that happened, the script was written in 2014. So, and then from there, it went into production and all that. And the movie, it was actually ended in 2016, like being filmed, and then it was like 6 months before it was actually released to theaters.
Right.
And I don't know, they tried to pick a good time to release it, but apparently they picked a bad time because there was a bunch of other movies that were out that actually did better. So, I don't know, they kind of, I guess, picked a bad time. Really, it should have probably released in April.
Yeah.
But anyways, so the other thing is the cast, like, the way the people they picked to play the certain characters. Sorry if you can hear our dog snoring. She snores really loud. So, Chief Aramaki is played by. I'm gonna have to look at this.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's Takeshi Kitano. Yeah, Kitano. Sorry. Takashi Kitano.
So he's actually Japanese.
He in the movie spoke only in Japanese, did not speak any English, and
they had a translator.
They had subtitles and all that. But he looked the part, like
really
from the original.
It was amazing.
Like, and then the other person that they did a really good job casting to look the original part was Batou.
And who was he
who was played by Pilou. I believe Pilou Asbaek, which sounds like an interesting name.
Yes, it does.
Sounds obviously not like,
American.
Your normal American name, like Mike Smith or whatever. Shout out to you if your name is Mike Smith. But he is actually a, hang on, I messed this up yesterday. I believe he is Danish, which is from Denmark.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. The last thing I want to mention about this was the premiere. They did a huge premiere of the movie in Japan. I think it was in Tokyo. And what they did is they had like a whole band show up and they had a choir do that song. If you guys know for Ghost in the Shell, you know this song. And we may stick a snippet of it if you don't remember it. But then they did an interview with the director, Rupert Sanders. And then they invited, to also be in the interview, they invited Scarlett Johansson, the major. They also invited Chief Aramaki, Takashi
Kitano.
Thank you. So that was pretty cool, and you can actually,
and they did it in Japan,
right? So if you want to watch that, just get on YouTube since you're already here and type in premiere in Japan for Ghost in the Shell, and it'll pop up. It's about an hour and a half, but it's really neat.
So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this informational, and please go watch the movie. It's really good.
Yes. So also don't forget to check out our other stuff that we have on our channel. We do Sims and Minecraft and everything else. We've got some more episodes of this kind of stuff. And don't forget to subscribe if you like this.
So until next time, keep your shell close.
And your ghost closer. See you guys next time.